Hello and welcome to Miss Charlotte Astrology. My name is Charlotte. I'm a full-time working astrologer, and on this channel I analyze the astrological charts of public figures, and very often they are celebrities, and that will be the case today. But I'm doing something a little bit different. Normally I get a celebrity chart and I just tear it apart and I analyze it. But I wanted to be more focused today. So we have a theme. I will be doing a series on the aspects, okay? So the main ones are square, trine, opposition, sextile. There's some others, but those are in conjunction. Those are the five main ones. Today, I will be giving you guys a presentation on the square, which is one of the most difficult aspects. And the reason why I'm doing it is because a lot of you guys in the comments, even clients, you often say to me, I have a square between these two things. Does that mean I'm doomed? You guys are obsessed with being doomed, okay? No, it doesn't mean you're doomed. It means that you are being given an opportunity to grow and to change and to mature. That's what that means. So let's look at the most difficult aspect, I think, the square. And hopefully this presentation is going to help you understand what your squares are and how you can work with them, okay? Before I dive in, I just want you guys to know I have a class on the ascendant, the first house, that's coming up in the end of July, on July 25th, depending on what time zone you're in. And I'll be looking at planetary aspects to the ascendant. I'll be looking at the different signs of the ascendant, so different rising signs, and of course using celebrity case studies to illustrate my points. If this is something that you're interested in, you like to meet other people, astro nerdy girls, usually girls, very often gays, girls and gays. You want to meet new friends, you want to talk astrology, you want to pick my brain. There's a class for you at the end of the month, and I would love to see you there. I also have workbooks, so if you really enjoy this presentation and you'd like to learn a bit more and you like a workbook, I do have a course and a workbook included in that on the aspects, and those are all linked below. And I do readings, so if you like to book a reading with me, MP3 recorded readings, those are in the links below. Okay, thank you so much for your support. All right, so let's dive into this presentation. So the theme for today for the square is growth through friction. And the topics that I'm going to cover are, well, I'll be defining it. So we're going to look at the definition and also the orb ranges for squares. I'm going to briefly talk about the disassociated square, and then using celebrity examples, I'll be looking at different types of squares. So squares between personal planets, squares between generational planets, and squares between personal and generational planets. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how we can work with our squares. So practical tips for integration and growth. Okay? All right, let's go. So in astrology, a square is a type of aspect, an angular a relationship between two planets defined by a 90-degree angle between them on the zodiac wheel. So I'm going to use Prince Philip here. So you can see here the red circles that are highlighting his moon in Leo and his Venus in Taurus. They are squared, okay? And I know it's very generous that, listen, I'm an astrologer that is very generous with my orbs. Some astrologers are like, no, I do no more than 5-degree orb, which is the margin of difference. I go to 10 because I don't like to pretend things don't exist, okay? The moon in Leo at 15 degrees and the Venus in Taurus at 5 degrees. I know it's a really big orb. Let's just call it a light square. It's a light square, but it's a square. And that's in a fixed sign. And then he's got a mutable square between his Gemini sun at 18 degrees, and it's an exact square because his Saturn is in Virgo at 18 degrees. So here are some examples of a fixed square and a mutable square. Okay, so the man had quite a few challenges in his chart, as you can see. Now, let me move over. So typically, yes, the square happens between signs with different elements, but in the same modality. So cardinal, fixed, mutable. So a cardinal example would be Aries and Cancer. Okay. Now, the glyph that we use is literally a square. A glyph is like a symbol. So that's a really short way of showing a square. And then if we were to write out Prince Philip squares, we would do it like this. Moon square Venus. Okay, Saturn square Sun. So you can see here, I've drawn them up for you. All right, so that's how we write it out in glyph version. Moving down, let's briefly talk about the disassociated square or the out of sign square, which occurs when planets sit in trined signs, but because of the degree, they are still squared. So, for example, isn't he the most Scorpio rising little boy you've ever seen in your life? Prince George. All right, so you can see here he's got a Saturn at an early degree, Saturn at 4 degrees in Scorpio, and then it squares off with his 29 degree Cancer Sun. Normally, you would have, a trine between planets in these signs. However, because Saturn is such an early degree and the Sun is at the latest degree, this forms a square. Okay, and let's call it a light square. Okay, it's still a square. Okay, so there we go. Next. All right, so now we want to talk about how squares manifest in personality and behavior. But before we do that, we need to establish something. We have personal or inner planets, the fast-moving planets, the Sun, the Moon, the Mercury, the Venus, the Mars. Okay, and then we got generational outer planets. Okay, so I count Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Okay, now depending on how they're aspecting to each other, it's going to indicate the turmoil within, the turmoil without. Okay, so we're going to have a look at our celebrity, our royal examples today, and show you how they've manifest, how these different squares have manifest for each of these people. Okay, let's talk about Prince Harry. Okay, he's got a little bit of a temper. Okay, so he has Mars square the Sun. Now, these are personal planets. A square between two personal planets typically reflects an internal conflict, an inner tension or contradiction that arises within an individual's psyche. It's the fight within, the war inside the self. This aspect often manifests as a struggle between competing drives, values, or desires. So let's have a look at Prince Harry. He's got a Mars in Sagittarius with it's a big orb, but it is in conjunction with Uranus in a public house in the 11th house. His anger is very visible. And then he's got a Sun at 22 degrees in Virgo. So what you have here is a gentleman that has a lot of conflict. While, being a Virgo Sun, I think he does crave structure and rules. And, that's why he did so well in the military. But then he's just got this free-spirited Mars and Sagittarius in a public house that gets him into a lot of trouble. He's always coming up against a fight with himself. On one side, he needs the rules and the structure, and he wants to be liked, and he wants to be accepted. But then, Mars is the phallus, and it's experimental in Sagittarius, and it doesn't like boundaries. So you see, there is tension within. He's always fighting himself. He gets himself into a lot of trouble, right? That's the struggle that he has within. And it's something that he has to learn how to balance during his lifetime, okay? And it does lead to public disgrace as well because they're playing out in public houses, right? And that's how we write it. Mars square the Sun. See the glyphs? All right, moving on. All right, we got not Prince Charlie. We got now King Charlie III. He has a Pluto Sun square. So, in contrast, when a square occurs between a personal planet and a generational outer planet, the challenge tends to be shaped by external or environmental forces. These aspects indicate friction between the individual's personal expression and the broader collective influences, often resulting in experiences where societal, cultural, or familial pressures inhibit or test personal growth, okay? So in this case, King Charlie III, he's got a Scorpio Sun at 22 degrees. Isn't it funny that him and the Sun that he hates the most, they both have 22 degrees suns? It was really funny. His dad hated him too. Anyway, hate is a strong word, but you know what I mean. It's a cycle. So you can see here that King Charles has a Pluto in the first house in Leo, right? and it's squaring off with his sun in Scorpio. Now, there's going to be a fight for power. It also doesn't help that Pluto is one of the planets that governs Scorpio. It's so funny that he had to grow up to be the biggest authority in the land, and yet his whole life he was battling quietly with authority. So Pluto is a difficult planet. It's transformational. You know, it's the planet, it's like the biggest hand on the clock. It takes a long time to make itself around the wheel. It indicates the rise and fall of empires. It's a very karmic, generational planet. So when it's coming up against the sun, who is he fighting? He's going to be fighting tradition. He's going to be fighting, the old systems. But then he's got to become. He's got to become the thing that he's always fighting. It's a lot. There's a lot. He doesn't have a lot of freedom here, and it's a bit sad. Highly sensitive, actually a very intuitive person, a very misunderstood person. Not saying some of the stuff he did was forgivable, because it wasn't, but that's also just part of the battle here. So it does also denote some disgrace here, and disgrace that, okay, some of it is deserved. But anyway, he is battling a system. Okay, and also Pluto in the first house, that's like wearing a mirror over you. And I say this as a Scorpio rising. People project onto you all the time. He's got a generational planet in his first house, and he was going to become the King of England. What are people projecting on him? Their deepest and darkest fears, desires. Like, there's a lot that goes into having a generational planet like that sitting on your face, on your ascendant. Not easy. Because people are going to be projecting things onto you that aren't you, right? It's a tough battle. All right, let's move to the next one. Now, a square between two generational outer planets such as Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto represents a collective or historical tension rather than a purely personal one. These aspects unfold over long periods and shape the worldview, values, and evolutionary path for entire generations. So a square between two generational planets is going to impact everybody that was born under that transit, those transits, right? So Queen Elizabeth II, she had Saturn sitting on her midheaven, squaring this Neptune in her 7th or 8th house, depending on if we do Placidus or whole sign. But yeah, she was born in 1926 during, the post-World War II years, a time for a lot of hope, but also a time where people had to be really frugal. So look into the 1920s was rough, man, really rough. So she was born into, a really difficult situation, a Saturn-Neptune square. You have this very opulent placement, this Neptune in Leo, which is very hopeful. And then this Saturn in Scorpio, which is incredibly, it's a bit poverty stricken. So this is an energy that is very painful generationally. Okay. And as you can see, we've written it here with the glyphs, Saturn square Neptune. Okay. Now, let's talk about how we can work with squares. Practical tips for integration and growth, because some of you guys, you think you're doomed, and you're not doomed. You just got to understand how this works. You got to acknowledge the inner conflict. Squares often reflect internal friction. You may feel pulled into two different directions or struggle between two parts of yourself. Name those sides. Journal. You got to journal. So, for example, my need for independence versus my fear of being alone is an example of an Aries Cancer square. Okay? So you just have to understand those parts of yourself, and you can reflect on your placements through journaling. That's the point. As above, so below. The whole point of astrology is not to look outwards towards the sky or blame the whole world, which is like a big, it's a big thing with when you're an astrology person, and very often we get accused of being narcissists because we were looking to blame outside things for our troubles. That's not the case. Astrology is about looking within. So do that and hold yourself accountable and acknowledge the contradictions within yourself. Okay? 2, take conscious, not reactive actions. Squares are action-oriented, but impulsive responses can worsen the tension. They require conscious effort to create positive movement. Delay immediate action. Reflect on your motivations. Create a plan to move forward that honors both sides of the square. Understand that that Cancer placement needs nurturing and loves and cuddles. You want a blanket put over you. But the Aries part of you wants to run and jump and win and doesn't want people hanging on. They're very contradictory energies, but you have to honor them both. You have to make them both happy. And sometimes you can't make both of these energies happy at the same time. And that's why learning balance is so important when it comes to squares. Okay? Practice self-discipline and patience. Squares demand maturity and responsibility. The growth they trigger isn't instant. The growth they trigger isn't instant. Persistence is key. Commit to gradual change. Achieve goals by taking manageable steps. Stay accountable by taking up therapy, fellas. Coaching and or following through with a routine. Okay? 4, understand the signs involved. Super important. These signs flavor how the square expresses itself. So with Gemini Pisces square, it brings mental fog, confusion, communication issues, right? It's like mutable squares are so difficult. Sometimes you don't move forward at all. Like you're just kind of stuck in this like mental fog. This the most impractical kind of. It's a difficult thing to have a square and a mutable sign. Yeah, because it's hard to move forward. You're just stuck inside of yourself. Whereas a Leo Taurus square deals with pride and stubbornness because they're fixed. Study the signs involved and what they each want. Ask yourself how you can honor both sets of needs in a way that is creative and not combative. Okay? So, yeah, there might be, in order to make, say, your moon in Gemini happy, there's a place that you can connect to people and socialize that is, a bit more intellectual. And then maybe for that Pisces part of yourself, maybe that's the place where you want to go to church or something that's a bit more spiritual. Maybe you have to keep those things separate, right? All right, let's move on to the next one. Channel frustration integration. Squares produce creative friction. This is the thing. If you have a square, you're not basic. You're complex. You're interesting, right? Having a square can be a really great gift. Everybody needs a challenge. Have you met people that have nothing to fight for? Boring. You're not boring, okay? You are creative. Actually, a square can be a great source of genius. Many artists, leaders, and innovators have prominent squares. They drive effort and breakthroughs. Express the tension through art, music, writing, or physical movement. Use frustration as fuel for productivity rather than paralysis. 6, use transits for activation. Like that big Cancer. You remember that new moon, with the Jupiter? Oh my God. That set off a domino effect for me because it squares off with so many things in my chart. That was a really painful one, but it was useful. Okay, so when planets transit the degrees of your natal square, the issue may flare up. These are growth windows, so there's opportunity here. Watch for transits, specifically conjunctions, oppositions, and squares to the planets involved. Plan reflection, action, or support during those times. Light some candles. I was on the phone to my witch girlfriends going like, okay, what color candle do I need? What do I need to write into it? What kind of oil do I need to put all over the candle? Like things like that. That's what I did during that Cancer new moon with Jupiter. Wild. Thanks, Michelle. Okay. Finding the missing modality or element squares to show imbalance. If you're stuck, consider what's missing. So do you have no earth? Do you have no water? Okay. And earth is associated with practicality. So maybe if you don't have that, maybe you just need more routine, or be with some earth people. Water, maybe you're lacking emotional intelligence or empathy, which is, it's something you can access, okay? It's just, please don't be angry with me, people that don't have water placements. I'm not saying you're a sociopath, okay? Calm down. Mutable energy, flexibility. Bring in activities or people that balance the missing energy. So you got to be open to things that make you a little bit uncomfortable. Do you require an earthy routine? Watery introspection, fiery motivation, or airy dialogue? What do you need? Because if you've got no air in your chart, you need to talk to someone. Yeah? You gotta verbalize some things. All right. Accept the tension as a part of you. This is probably, I think, the most important one. You have to stop fighting it. Okay? A square isn't a flaw. It's a core engine of your personality. You don't solve it. You learn to dance with it. See the square as a lifelong workshop, not a problem to fix. Celebrate the resistance, strength, and insight it brings over time. Now, I have a picture of a rope tied in a knot. Is a rope useful when it's not tied? No. You need the tension to make the rope useful. The square is useful. Okay? It's important. You need to have tension in a rope in order to make it work. So make the square work for you, and understand that it is not your greatest flaw or your curse. It could be your greatest gift. Now, I'm going to have a continuation of this presentation in the member section, where I will be looking at the Wives of Windsor. I'll be looking at Princess Diana, Princess Catherine, and Duchess Meghan, and be talking about the squares and the modalities, because they each have some really really powerful, difficult energies in their chart. So Princess Catherine has cardinal squares, which are very painful. Diana has fixed squares, also very painful. And then you've got Meghan's, she's got a mutable square in her chart. All of them are very difficult. And so what I'm going to do is, in another video for the members, go through each one and talk about how they play out and potentially how these women can use them. Well, not Diana, she's passed away. But anyway. All right, so that's my presentation for the squares. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this has helped you in some way. In the comments, please let me know if you would like me to do trines, oppositions, conjunctions, or sextiles next. And let me know if you'd like to see another famous. I need like a theme for each one. I need a theme for each theme. I do want to do the Kardashians, because I don't do a lot on the Kardashians because they kind of drive me nuts. But they are somewhat of an American royal-ish family, and I think that they would be really interesting charts to analyze. So, yeah, put your suggestions below. And, yeah, come join the members if you'd like to see my my deep dive analysis on these three ladies. Okay? Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video, whatever that may be. Bye!